By the early 1800s, Napoleon Bonaparte was basically dominating Europe. The guy was winning battles so quickly that most countries barely had time to react before French troops were already taking over territory. And while all this chaos was happening in Europe, France also controlled a gigantic piece of North America called Louisiana. Now, you'd think owning a massive American territory would be extremely important, but Napoleon was a little distracted trying to fight wars across Europe first, which was unsurprisingly about to create some major problems later. See, the Louisiana Territory was enormous. We're talking about around 828,000 square miles stretching through the center of North America. At the time, the United States depended heavily on the Mississippi River for trade and transportation. And unfortunately for them, France controlled the entire region, which meant Napoleon technically had the power to seriously damage American commerce whenever he wanted. Thomas Jefferson was definitely not happy about this situation, because when your economy relies on one giant river, you really don't want a powerful French emperor controlling access to it. Now, originally, Napoleon actually had plans for Louisiana. France wanted to use the territory to support its profitable Caribbean colonies, especially Haiti. There was just one huge problem. Haiti exploded into one of the most successful slave revolts in history. French forces got devastated by fierce resistance, harsh conditions, and especially diseases like yellow fever. Turns out, European armies are much less effective when soldiers are constantly dying from tropical disease. Napoleon lost tens of thousands of troops, and suddenly maintaining a giant territory across the Atlantic started looking a lot less useful. At this point, Napoleon had two major issues. First, his Caribbean empire was collapsing. Second, Europe was still full of countries trying to fight him. Wars were incredibly expensive. Armies needed soldiers, weapons, ships, food, horses, and endless supplies. So Napoleon looked at Louisiana, this massive territory sitting far away from France, and realized something important. France barely had the resources to defend it anymore. And if Britain attacked, which was a very real possibility, France could lose the territory for absolutely nothing. So suddenly, selling Louisiana started sounding like a very smart idea. Meanwhile, over in America, Thomas Jefferson was trying to avoid an economic disaster. His original plan was actually pretty simple. He mainly wanted New Orleans, the critical port city where the Mississippi River connected to the Gulf. So Jefferson sent American diplomats to France with instructions to negotiate a deal. Basically, please buy this one important city before Napoleon changes his mind. Simple enough, except when the Americans arrived in France, Napoleon had a much larger offer prepared. When the Americans arrived, they expected long negotiations over New Orleans. Instead, Napoleon basically shocked them by offering all of Louisiana, which was probably one of the wildest real estate offers in history. The Americans were completely off guard. They didn't even have permission to buy that much land. Jefferson had only authorized negotiations for a smaller area. Now suddenly, France was offering a territory large enough to completely reshape the future of the United States. So in 1803, America agreed to purchase the entire Louisiana Territory for about $15 million, which sounds expensive until you realize how incredibly huge the territory was. The United States basically doubled in size overnight, and the final cost worked out to only a few cents per acre. Honestly, it was one of the greatest land deals ever made. The Americans rushed to finalize the agreement before France could reconsider. Meanwhile, Napoleon received desperately needed money to continue funding wars in Europe, so technically both sides got what they wanted. The Louisiana Purchase completely transformed the United States. It opened the door for westward expansion, new states, new trade routes, and eventually America becoming a continental superpower. And the craziest part, Napoleon didn't sell it because he believed in America's future or anything noble like that. He sold it because France was exhausted, financially strained, and unable to defend the territory properly anymore. So one failed Caribbean campaign, endless European wars and one rushed negotiation accidentally reshaped the future of North America forever, which honestly proves something important about history. Sometimes world-changing events happen because powerful leaders are desperate, tired, broke, and trying to solve immediate problems as fast as possible.